So we're just going to pick up where we just left off in Genesis 44 and 45. This is going to kind of culminate the story. I just wanted to keep moving through it. If you remember, the brothers are all eating with Joseph. Joseph still hasn't revealed who he is. All 11 of the brothers are there now. They're there to get a second set of grain. Joseph is not ready to reveal who he is yet. We're not told in the narrative why exactly he's doing this, but he is getting a lot of information, and it is kind of working through some of the things he needs to know about trust and what had actually happened in his life. Again, he wasn't completely able to have all the information about what happened all these years. And so it's been 22 years of him being imprisoned and enslaved, and now I've moved up, obviously. And so he'd had all those years to kind of think this through and try to figure out what he wants. And now he's had months of Simeon being there until they brought Benjamin. And so here we see him throwing a feast. He's weeping, right? Like he's having to go to a back room to cry because he's seen his brother. He's not even getting to hug him or to interact with him. He obviously wants to, but so far he's not ready to do that yet. So Genesis 44 is where we're going to pick up. So they're at this feast, and this is the second time they've been in Egypt. So Joseph commanded his house steward, saying, "Fill the man's sack with food as much as they can carry, and put each man's money in the opening of his sack. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the opening of the sack of the youngest, and his money for the grain." And he did as Joseph had told him. Now, we're not told exactly why he does this. This seems very odd. There is some supposition. I mean, there's a few scenarios we could think of. This is to test his brothers, to see what they do when Benjamin is falsely accused. Are they going to allow Benjamin to go into prison and enslavement like they did Joseph? And he's doing this with a silver cup, right? They sold him for silver. Will they kind of sell Benjamin out for silver? Is kind of the question asked here. So Joseph is testing them. Are they going to treat Benjamin badly? Should I just somehow arrest Benjamin and keep him here with me and make him my personal, like let him in on all this? Or how should he go about doing this? Is kind of the question. He doesn't trust his brothers at this point, is basically what's going on. And he wants to know, will they sell Benjamin? And so again, Joseph is setting up a test. And this is a brilliant scenario, right? Put a cup, a very expensive silver cup of one of the higher ups of Egypt in Benjamin's bag. We can come after him. We can accuse him. We can bring him back alone. Let's see how the brothers react to him being brought into imprisonment and slavery here. They'll get to keep their silver cup, right? Just like they did. They sold Joseph out for silver. Maybe they'll sell Benjamin. And so this test makes more sense when we see this sort of through Joseph's lens. It's not Joseph playing a trick on them. He's not being deceptive. He actually is trying to get information about the safety of his brother. So in verse 3, it says, "As soon as it was lit, the men were sent away with their donkey. They had just left the city and were not far away. And Joseph said to the house steward, 'Up, follow the men, and when you overtake them, say to them, why have you repaid evil for good? Is this not that which you, my lord, drinks, and which he indeed uses for divination? You have done wrong in doing this.'" That's a little questionable. Why does he even use the word divination here? Again, it's not clear, but we do know that later that Joseph is following God, and he should not have been doing divination. But this is his cup. The Egyptians would have thought it to be for drinking and doing divination, and so that's how he refers to it. Whether he was doing divination or not is not clear from this verse. It just says that's how they would understand this cup and the significance of it, that it was the ruler, one of the ruler's cups. And so again, he's falsely accusing the brothers in front of his servants. Go deal with this. Go get that cup and bring the person back. So he basically wants Benjamin. He wants to see what the brothers will do, and he's kind of testing the whole situation. Again, so he overtook them and spoke these words to them. And he said to them, "Why does my Lord say such words as these? Far be it from your servants to do such a thing. Behold, the money which we found in the opening of our sacks we have brought back to you from the land of Canaan. How then could we steal silver or gold from the Lord's house? With whomever of your servant is found, he shall die, and we shall be my Lord's slaves." And he said, "Now let it indeed be according to your words. He with whom it's found shall be a slave, but the rest of you shall be considered innocent." So they said, "Kill the man and make the rest of us your slaves, whoever you find with this." And they said, no, we're not here to kill that person. We're here to enslave them. So Joseph has obviously given his servants very clear instructions. Go and bring that person back as a prisoner, as a slave. So they are clearly following Joseph's test protocol here. They're not to kill anyone. They're just to bring the offender back as a slave. And so it's going to be the exact situation that Joseph was in. Will the brothers sell out Benjamin for silver? Again, so he said, and silver was a common slave price. So trading a human for silver would not have been thought of as a big deal in this time period. That would have been a known quantity to sell someone for. So he was paying them a fair price for Benjamin even here by giving them the silver. And so they shouldn't sell him, obviously, they're brothers, but it would have been considered even then fair for this. But the rest of you shall be considered innocent. So he doesn't want any of them. He doesn't want the other brothers to come back, right? So then they hurried, each man lowered his sack to the ground, and each man opened his sack. They have no idea. And he searched, beginning with the oldest and ending with the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack, right? Bulging sacks of grain, they just bury a cup in one of them. It wouldn't have been noticed by any of them. And so they're digging through these sacks. And so again, will they let Benjamin be enslaved and the rest of them go free? They know what the stakes are. They've been told the scenario perfectly by the servant. You're not going to die. We're not going to enslave all of you. We're just going to take one of you. And so what happens here? Very different reaction. Then they tore their clothes in grief. And when each man had loaded his donkey, they returned to the city. So they do not go home. They do not leave Benjamin. They do not do what Joseph thinks they might do, which is just go, yeah, take Benjamin. It's fine. You know what? He's our dad's favorite. We'll inherit better if he's gone. We don't really want him inheriting everything. You can have him. But that's not what they do. They are in grief and they go back to Egypt. They want to go settle this matter with Joseph. They do not want to go home to Jacob. They do not want to face Jacob and lie to him again like they did the last time. They are choosing to do the right thing. So they've passed the test, right? That's actually what we're seeing here. They don't abandon Benjamin. They try to protect Benjamin by taking care of him this time. When Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, he was still there, and they fell down to the ground before him. Joseph said to them, "What is this thing that you have done? Do you not know that a man who is like me can indeed practice divination?" Joseph is still pretending to be Egyptian. He's basically saying, "Don't you know that I knew, which one of you took it, and I can do these things?" And again, Joseph's just playing a role. He's not saying he did divination. He's just saying in front of his courts and everything, like, "Don't you know that I know everything? Like, look, I put you in birth order, and like we've been messing with you this whole time." And Joseph isn't needing to do divination to do any of that. And so their own consciences and things like that are pretty much driving their reaction to everything going on anyway. And so Judah, it specifically mentions Judah and his brothers came to Joseph. It doesn't say Reuben and the brothers. It says Judah. Judah is obviously leading here. He's the one saying, we have to protect Benjamin this time. We cannot sell him into slavery. And so it would have been known possibly to Joseph that Judah was the one that sold him last time. He may not have known the other ones wanted to kill him. But at this point, he's testing them. And Judah is passing this test, right? He is the one that gets to speak in this role. Like I said, you only see Reuben and Judah speaking here. And we don't even see Benjamin speaking. But here, this is what goes on. So Judah said, "What can we say to my Lord? What words can we speak? And how can we justify ourselves? God has found out the guilt of your servants. Behold, we are my Lord's slaves, both we and the one in whose possession the cup has been found." But he said, "Far be it from me to do this. The man in whose possession the cup has been found, he shall be my slave. But as for you, go up in peace to your father." So Judah says, we're all your slaves now. We're not going home. We're not doing that. We're not going to lie to our dad this time. We're not going to tell him that Benjamin died somewhere along the way. We're not doing this time. We're all going to be your slaves. And Joseph said, "I don't want any of you as slaves. I just want Benjamin." And Judah is the one that gets the speaking role. He's the one that had caused the selling the first time, and he's the one making it right. He's also taken responsibility for Benjamin, and he's actually following through on it. Reuben isn't here. Now, you have to think Reuben's along with all of this, but again, it's Judah that's taking the lead. And we'll see that. The kingly line will come through Judah. Judah will take the lead in many things, especially as, leading temple worship and things like that in the Davidic line. Judah is doing what's right. And again, they are passing this test. So Judah approached him and said, "O my Lord, may your servant please speak a word in my Lord's ear, and do not be angry with your servant, for you are equal to Pharaoh." My Lord asked his servant, saying, "Have you a father or a brother?" And we said to my Lord, "We have an old father and a little boy born in our father's old age. Now his brother is dead, so he alone is left of his mother, and his father loves him." First off, we know that the brother isn't dead, but Judah is sticking to the family line. We don't even know that Benjamin knows that Joseph got sold. There's a good chance he doesn't. Jacob and Benjamin don't know. And so the 10 brothers had decided never to let anyone know that Joseph was still alive. And so he's holding to that. That part of the storyline always stays pretty consistent with the brothers. They never talk about selling their brother into slavery. They really can't. They just say, the Lord is angry, or whatever they have. So again, they are telling Joseph, this is the son. My brother's dead, and so is the mother, and this is the brother that my father loves. Like, you have to know this is going to break our father, not us. My father's at home with very little food, right? All the grandkids and wives and everything are with him. And then you said to your servants, bring him down to me so that I might set eyes on him. So basically, he's just recounting the story. We brought Benjamin. We did. And we told you this boy can't leave his father or his father will die. You keep asking if our father's okay, and he's not going to be okay if Benjamin's not there, right? And so you kept insisting, though. And so when we went, we told him, but we had to come get food. And so now we're in like verse 26. It says, but we said, we cannot go down if our younger brother is not with us. Then we'll go down, for we cannot see the man's face unless our younger brother is with us. Then your servant, my father, said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons, and one is left. Surely he is torn to pieces, and I have not seen him since. If you take this one from me, and harm happens to him, you will bring my gray hair down to Sheol in sorrow. So now when I come to your servant, my father, and the boy is not with us, since our father's life is so attached to the boy's life, when he sees that the boy is not with us, he will die. So your servant will bring the gray hair of your servant, our father, down to Sheol in sorrow. For your servant accepted responsibility for the boy from the father, saying, if you do not bring him back, then your father to you, then my father can let me take the blame forever. So now please let your servant remain as a slave to the Lord instead of the boy, and let the boy go up with his brother. For how shall I go to my father if the boy is not with me? I fear that I may see the evil that would overtake my father. So basically, Judah just pleads the case. He's like, take me as a slave. My father can't handle this, and I am not going to face my father if I don't have Benjamin. Just send Benjamin home. I will be the slave. I will stay here. Just keep me instead. And Judah is like passing this test with flying colors, right? He is doing everything that Joseph probably wouldn't have expected. He is stepping up. He's taking lead in the family. He's thinking of his father's feelings, which wasn't something they thought of the last time. They're 22 years further along in life, and they're making some very grown-up and responsible decisions here. Judah says, I've made a case with my father that the guilt would be on me forever, the blame forever, right, if this doesn't go through. He's saying that there had been discussion even with their father over this, that Judah was going to step up. And he does. And so again, Joseph is getting this huge story now. He's seeing their hearts. He's actually getting a lot of trust rebuilt with them through this whole process. So not only is there forgiveness and no bitterness on Joseph's part, he's actually putting them in situations to build trust very quickly. He's giving them tests to allow them to pass or fail on their own merits. He's not hoping they've changed. He's actually testing to see if they have. He's also trying to bring Benjamin into a protective space. And so again, he's going to either keep Benjamin, or these brothers had better show some remorse and pass these tests. And so Joseph's actually using a lot of wisdom here. I think sometimes when we read this, we just see Joseph as kind of deceptive and playing tricks, but he's really not. He's just putting them through a very clear set of tests. And in the outcome of this, we see a beautiful thing happen. His trust comes back. He can trust them. So we know in a process of reconciliation that there's forgiveness, and that comes pretty quickly. That's on us. We can choose. Joseph had full control over that. But trust isn't something that comes very quickly. It's something that's built. And he's getting to see 22 years of a process in their lives in a very short point of time in this test, that they really have changed. That Judah is willing to give up himself. He's willing to think about his father's well-being. And again, this is a big thing for Joseph to see. So not only are they not willing to trade Benjamin, they're also not willing to leave him. There's nothing that's going to happen here. They're staying. So Genesis 45, we're going to pick up again. Then Joseph could not control himself in front of everyone standing before him, and he shouted, "Have everyone leave me." So there was no one with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. So at this point, I don't think the Egyptians all even knew. They knew at one point when Joseph was in prison that there was this young Hebrew. So they kind of knew he had a different origin. But again, he's telling everybody to leave. You saw over the dinner that the Hebrews and the Egyptians don't really eat together. There's going to be some major differences culturally too. The Hebrews raise sheep, the Egyptians don't. Like there's some big things that the Egyptians really look down on the Hebrews. And so again, he's pushing all of his servants out, and he's going to have this moment with just his brothers. The Egyptian staff leaves, and Joseph is now ready to reveal his identity. Well, why? Judah's finally thought of someone like his brother and his father before himself and the brothers and their own personal feelings. He's showing huge amounts of change and remorse. He's showing the ability to lead the family. He's rebuilt trust in a very quick time here. Then he wept so loud that the Egyptians heard it, and the household of Pharaoh heard about it. And Joseph said to his brothers, I'm Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were terrified in his presence. Okay, so again, they are again terrified. They have been terrified, point and point again. Money gets returned to them as a blessing, terrified. They get taken to a banquet, they're terrified. Like they have had all of these incidents happen. And so they realize everything they've done. Benjamin, this is probably the first, he's heard that his brother's alive. They've been lying to their dad all these years. How are they even going to tell their dad that they've been lying to him all these years? And not only that, but Joseph is in a huge place of authority and power. He can just have them all killed. Like, he can kill the ones he wants, keep the ones he wants. He can do whatever he wants. Like, they're on his turf. He is completely in control. And he is weeping. They don't understand all this emotionalism going on probably as Joseph is telling them this. Again, maybe they're just thinking he just wants Benjamin and wants to kill all of us. Like they have every right to think that. It's kind of how Jacob re-engaged with Esau in a lot of fear, right? He wanted him dead at one point. Now he doesn't. Like they've only lived from this perspective of wanting to kill their brother. They don't know that Joseph hasn't been living from that perspective. It's sometimes hard to understand other people. I think we have a lot of trouble. I've seen this recently. Sometimes when people are blessing us, we see it through our own lenses of how we would have been treating people, maybe stingy or some other way. Or in this case, we might be forgiving and somebody else might not be. And we don't understand that. We're like, wait, I have a soft heart. Why wouldn't you just be sensitive to this, here? And maybe they don't. And so we see this even with like Pharaoh in another different Pharaoh, that his heart was hardened. And it seems so contrary to the way the people were acting. They didn't quite understand, probably that mentality. And that's a little bit of what's going on here. Joseph's heart has just been soft towards them, and they're terrified. They have no idea. They figure that he's just like them, wants murderous revenge, right? And so again, he has all the power now. He's locked them up already. He locked them up for 3 days. He locked up Simeon for months. He's returned money to them to make them look like thieves. And now he knows Benjamin and his father are alive, and he can just wipe them out and go have what he wants. Again, this is, but we've seen now Joseph weep 3 times. He's wept upon the finding out that Simeon, his brothers were there, number one, but that that Reuben had stood up for him, that he had heard his cries and pleas and had stood up for him. He then finds, and he weeps at that. He then weeps when he sees Benjamin for the first time. And now he's weeping as he tells him who he is. He can't control himself. Like these are emotional outbursts. This is a healing time for Joseph. He's getting point after point of healing. Now this one's basically because of what Judah just did. He gets to reveal himself. The test is over. This big test that he's given is now done. Then Joseph said to his brothers, please come closer to me. And they came closer. And he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold to Egypt. Now do not be grieved or angry with yourselves because you sold me here, for God sent me ahead of you to save lives. So he basically gathers them in closely and says, look, I know you sold me. I know what you did was wrong, but don't be upset. God has sent me here to save your lives. I have a bigger picture. I actually know this famine's going to go on another 5 years. Brothers didn't know that. You have to remember, they're just living in the moment of this famine. Joseph has the big picture. He has a 14-year vision of 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. He knows that all this is kind of coming down. He has the belief in those dreams. These brothers never expected him to see him again. They didn't believe his dreams that much. They didn't think, those dreams he had when he told us, those are still going to happen. We're going to go bow down to him someday. Not a single one of them was still thinking that. And so Joseph speaks and just comforts them about the purposes of God in this. Now, I'm not saying that the evils of selling him were right. That's never really morally said. But God knew that Joseph needed to be in Egypt to save lives. Joseph was going to end up there somehow. This was probably not plan A of God, but it is the way he got there. And so again, we understand there is a bigger picture. And Joseph basically says, I'm okay with it. I understand the bigger picture now. All those years in prison and enslaved, he probably didn't know the bigger picture. And now he does. And so for the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there's still 5 years in which there will be neither plowing or harvesting. Now this has got to be news to them. Like, how do you know that, right? Number one, how do you know that? We're 2 years in. Nobody knows how long a famine's going to last. And he's telling them basically, look, it's bad now, but it's still going to stay bad. Like, I've been preparing for this. Like, you guys haven't been, but I have been. And I'm here to do even further work to protect you. Do you believe me and do you trust me? So he basically is saying, I trust you enough to let you know who I am, but now do you trust me enough to let me save the family? So God sent me ahead of you to ensure for you a remnant on the earth and to keep you alive by a great deliverance. Now therefore it was not you who sent me here, but God, and he has made me a father to Pharaoh and the Lord of all his household and a ruler over all the land of Egypt. So basically he's saying, I even take care of Pharaoh. Like, I take care of everything here in the whole land. I run all of this. And I know that we have 5 more years of famine. Will you let me take care of you guys as well? The family needs saving. We're a covenant family. We have a relationship with God. God did this. He sent me. He had ensured there was a remnant on earth. Basically, he's pulling the Noah line. There's going to be a remnant that gets saved. And it's us. And we're going to be okay. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to starve through this famine. And he also says, I'm in Egypt because of God. Like I said, God was going to get Joseph to Egypt somehow. And so again, we see Joseph attributes this rise to power to God alone. Not to himself, not to his own wisdom or his smarts. He didn't say, I had the best education. He just says, no, this is God. And we know that because we saw such a massive change from his imprisonment to the place of position that Joseph couldn't take any credit for it. And sometimes when we don't go through a slow rise in a process, there's no way we should even be where we are without God's favor and without just attributing it all to God. I know there's been points in my life like that. There's other times where we work hard and we see things come about and we need those as well. I mean, we go to school, we do these things, right, to learn more and to really go through that process with God. But other times there's things when God just opens a door and says, do this right now, and everything just shifts and changes. And that's what Joseph had, and that's what he's always looking back at. He said, God's the one that put me here. Like, I can't say I can take credit for this. I'm here because God put me here. So then Joseph is going to give them a set of instructions. He's basically laid it all out for them now. And they're going to have to trust him. And that's going to be hard because, right, a second earlier, they were trembling. He's weeping, they're trembling still. And he's trying to smooth this out. I'm not mad at you. Like, are they going to trust that or are they not going to trust that? He's saying, I see the bigger picture here. You guys don't. And so he's starting to fill them in. He says, hurry up and go to my father and say to him, this is what your son Joseph says. God has made me the Lord of all Egypt. Come down to me and do not delay. Okay, well, that's against the family directive. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not to leave the land. Abraham knows that. He left to go to Egypt once. He got in big trouble with Abimelech, got kicked out of Egypt for it, had to go back up basically and repent and deal with God at the altar spot. Isaac was told, whatever you do, do not leave the land. Even if there's a famine, don't leave the land. And now Joseph's saying, break the family directive and leave the land. Come to Egypt. And always, even when they needed to get wives, they were going north up to the old family spot of Abraham where he'd left. But this time he's saying, you need to go get him. This is not going to go well. The 10 brothers are going to have to go explain a 22-year-old lie to their father as well. Can you imagine how angry he's going to be? He's been in sorrow and grieving for 22 years over Joseph. He'd already lost Rachel, can't replace Joseph, like all these things. And now they're going to have to go tell their father that they're liars. The thing that they didn't want to do was be exposed. And they're going to have to go do that. Joseph's not going to do it for them. Nobody else is going to do it for him. It's not going to be, some expose in a headline somewhere. They have to go tell their dad face to face what they did. And they're going to have to fess up to the whole mess and explain how it's for good and all this. And Joseph's not mad at them. But again, he says, for you shall live in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, you and your children and your grandchildren and your flocks and your herds and all that you have. Basically, Joseph said, I have this all worked out. I've been preparing for this. There I will also provide for you, for there are still 5 years of famine to come, and you and your households and all that you have will be impoverished. Basically, you're going to lose everything. All those herds and flocks, you're going to end up eating all of them. You're not going to have anything left. Behold, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see, that it is with my mouth which is speaking to you. Now you must tell my father of all the splendor in Egypt and all that you have seen, and you must hurry and bring my father here." So basically, he says, go convince Jacob to leave. You're not going to make it there. You guys have to do this. I know it's against what the family's been told in the past, but this is right. He doesn't appeal to God, says this. He just says, God has provided for you here. The land of Goshen is a piece of Egypt that they can be in with their herds and flocks and not have to deal with some of the stereotyping that the Egyptians feel against them as Hebrews and sheep herders and things like that. So he's giving them very clear instructions. He has this well planned and thought out. He actually knows the Egyptian culture really well. He set aside some land for them and a place where they can be flourish there, even in the midst of famine. And you have to remember that in a famine, if there's drought or anything with it, the animals are having trouble getting food as well. So he is definitely giving them instructions on what's going to happen here, that this provision is already taken care of. Joseph tells all of them to leave the promised land and come to Egypt, right? And he's going to provide them complete protection in this. And so he fell on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept on his neck. Again, we're seeing this scene of weeping. Joseph's like, I got everything planned, but I'm still having this emotional feelings, especially towards Benjamin. And he kissed all his brothers and wept on them, and afterward his brothers talked with him. So he sees that that Joseph's heart is soft towards them. They finally get it. Like they finally get that this is Joseph, that he has their best interest in mind, that he's going to let Benjamin be with them, that he's not trying to harm some of them and not other ones. They're reunited after 22 years. Like Benjamin was probably pretty young when Joseph was taken. And so again, Benjamin most likely did not know that Joseph was even alive all these years. He just was the brother that his father loved, and his father's been heartbroken all these years. So now the news was heard in Pharaoh's house that Joseph's brothers had come. It pleased Pharaoh and his servants. So Pharaoh's happy. He's like, oh, look, Joseph, he had brothers and friends and people, and right? And so he's like, this is great. We've always just known Joseph. We've given him a wife from here. He's had a couple of his own sons. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, say to your brothers, do this, load your livestock and go to the land of Canaan and take your father and your household and come to me, and I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you will eat the fat of the land. Now you are ordered, do this, take wagons from the land of Egypt for your little ones and your wives, and bring your father and come. And do not concern yourselves with your property, for the best of the land of Egypt is yours. Basically, leave your houses, leave your furniture. You're not going to need any of that. We're going to supply you with everything. And that's basically, this is coming from the Pharaoh. Pharaoh's like, I want to bless Joseph's family. Joseph's been the best thing. I've gotten 20% tax. I'm getting to sell it back to all the nations, all this food to people. I'm getting all this money. I'm getting actually very wealthy even in 2 years' time off of what Joseph's done for me. I'd love to have his family here. This is all working out really well. Like I said, this is a blessed family. And whenever the blessed family comes to a place, the other people get blessed by them. So this is not a bad thing. And they're also saying we're so high up in the social class here, the Pharaoh and Joseph, that even if the famine gets really bad, we'll still have food. We're always going to be able to eat. It's always, the low end of the social scale that hurts the most. If your family comes here, we're going to put them at the very top of the social scale. They're going to have the best land, whatever they want. And Joseph's already told them, don't ask for particular other land. Go to Goshen. Like he's already laying out, I don't want you that close to the Egyptians. I want you to kind of be out separate on your own. I have this place picked out for you. So Pharaoh is completely happy to be rewarding Joseph. He finally has some way of paying Joseph something back by giving him his family land. And he is very insistent that they take wagons and move them here. Like he is going to help them. He's going to send basically a whole moving team to go move them and bring them. And so the family is going to be pressured. Jacob really doesn't get a choice at this point, even though it's been the family's thing. Joseph's already made this decision. He's acting like the head of household. Then the sons of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons according to the commands of Pharaoh, and he gave them provisions for the journey. To each of them he gave changes of garments, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of garments. And to his father he sent the following: 10 male donkeys loaded with the best things of Egypt, 10 female donkeys loaded with grain, bread, and sustenance for his father on the journey. So basically, this entire just huge amount of provision is going to show up. Jacob is not going to be able to turn this down. There's no way his sons deceived anybody out of this. Like this is legitimately, 20 donkeys worth of stuff is going back, and 300 pieces of silver a huge amount of money to go to Benjamin. These extra gifts are showing that there's welcome and acceptance, that they're going to be able to buy whatever they need. And this is going to help his father come to terms with everything. So just as Jacob has sent gifts, now Joseph is sending even more back, right? Jacob is probably scraping together all the gifts he can bring of honey and almonds in the middle of this famine. And Joseph's just like, I got extra. Just take it. Use these donkeys to bring people back. And so again, he sends his brothers away as they depart, and they said, do not quarrel on the journey. Basically, you guys have been getting in fights over how to do all this stuff. Just stay silent, go home, and deal with this. They're to move exactly as instructed. Quarreling, don't come up with other plans. Don't try to weasel out of this. Don't try to get scared. Don't do anything. Just go home. No other plan. You need to come back. Tell your dad what needs to happen and bring him back. So they went up from Egypt and came to the land of Canaan to their father Jacob and told him, saying, Joseph is alive, and indeed he is ruler over all the land of Egypt. Can you imagine what Jacob's thinking? Number one, he's probably really angry at his sons for lying to him, but he's also probably just relieved. It says, but he was stunned, for he did not believe them. Well, he doesn't seem to have believed them a lot. And yes, this seems overwhelmingly. Can you imagine losing a child and 22 years later, someone goes, oops, they didn't actually drown. They were just lost at sea. We found them. You want them back? And not only that, but they're well off. They've married well. They're in charge of a whole land. They're going to save your life now. That's basically, I don't even think we have crazy movie lines that follow this one, right? When they told him all the words of Joseph that he had spoken to them, and when he saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to him carry him, then the spirit of their father Jacob revived, right? I said the gifts were going to mean something to Jacob. They needed all of this provision to show that what they were saying was true, that this very wealthy Joseph was still alive and gave them all of this. And Israel said, it is enough. My son Joseph is still alive. I will go and see him before I die. So Jacob basically goes, fine, I'll go on a trip. I'm still really stuck to the land of Canaan. It's a promised land. Now, I don't know if you've ever been around people that are older. I've had some family and things, but when people have been in one place a long time, one home, one place, they really do become deeply entrenched into that place. But this is even more for Jacob. This has been 3 generations. Abraham had to leave everything to be there. Jacob is absolutely wedded to this land. His burial sites of his wife are there. It is his father. All of this is super important. And he's been drilled into his head since he was a child that this is the covenant land of God. And for him to be able to leave it is very difficult. You kind of get that sense. It says, I'll go and see him before I die. I'm going to go visit. So you don't get the sense yet that Jacob has come to terms yet. Jacob is rightly stunned at all of this news. He's about 130 years old. And he's going to end up actually not just visiting, but living in Egypt the last 17 years of his life. So Jacob, this is not going to be a small trip. We'll actually deal a little bit in the next section about Jacob and his wrestling again, kind of through this process of, can I go to Egypt? Because like I said, he's not just set in his ways or thinking this is family property or anything like that. This is actually, they've carved out a place for themselves. Isaac had moved around and finally found a well where he could live. They've had a place to spread out. They haven't had any of the problems of the past. They've been able to dwell here. And so for Jacob to leave that, he's like, we finally are getting some consistency. I can leave this to my 12 sons. He's been thinking that probably for a lot of years. And now to have to uproot over a 2-year famine seems quite difficult. And to go to a place where he's been told over and over not to go, the land of Ham and Canaan, is in Egypt. And so it's not really even the land of his ancestry, Seth. And so again, Shem. And so we see this process that Jacob's going to need to wrestle through. Joseph told me to come. It's hard to believe he's even alive. You've got to think that, what kind of things are going through Jacob's brain, and just processing this emotionally and mentally has got to be very difficult. And now he needs to uproot everything, leave his home, leave his furniture, leave everything behind, and just carry what he can out of the land. And so that's where we're going to leave it. We're going to leave it here with the brothers have finally reunited. They passed a big test. And you have to see the wisdom in that test. It's rebuilt trust and community so quickly in the family. And now we're seeing that this last part of Joseph's dream, where it's 10 brothers bowing down, then 11, now his father's about to come to him, that this whole thing is coming to fruition for for Joseph, that he is continuing to move this plan forward. He knows this is in the heart of God. It's been that early dream on his life that God gave him those 2 dreams, right? 2 dreams. It has to surely come to pass. And so we're seeing him work within that framework. And so, again, we don't get into all the morality of Joseph. Is Joseph lying or deceiving his brothers by putting money in their bags? And he says some things about divination in there that are hard. Like, is he just playing the Egyptian game and doing those things? You kind of get the sense that, yeah, and at times he's not being completely straight with them on certain things by revealing who he is. Again, we're not seeing him necessarily outright lie about things, but again, he's not being very forthcoming typically. And so here's just part of where we are in this story. It's all moving forward. God's big plan of protecting the promised line is happening, and God is getting the credit for it through Joseph. Joseph keeps saying it's God's plan. And so we're seeing this. We're seeing the story really through Genesis has been the same thing, right? God is the underlying plan, and then there's human behavior that happens on top of it. And we can't fault God for all the human behavior that happens, right? I keep saying it's not always plan A that Joseph gets sold into slavery, but it is plan A that he ends up in Egypt. So there are pieces to this as we look at what's the difference between God's sovereign plan, which he continues to push forward, and how humans interact with that in the ways that they do. Joseph's running these tests and things which seem to have wisdom on them. And then the brothers are responding. He's finding out about their hearts. And so, again, I love the story of forgiveness with Joseph and the lack of bitterness, but I also love the reconciliation. And you can tell this reconciliation because they're weeping, right? They're really reconnecting and bonding again. And they're building and rebuilding trust here. Okay, so I'm going to leave it with that as a high note, and we'll get into the next part of the series